Isn't that something?
Wasn't that neat?
Thank you, St. Paul.
Thank you, St. Paul. All righty. Hey, what's up now? Good morning. It is a 9 to noon radio show. It's a Wild Wednesday. The Minnesota Wild take on the Dallas Stars. It is the first home game for the Minnesota Wild during the 2026 Stanley Cup playoffs. And joining us now is John Hynes, head coach of said squad. John, it's Paul Allen. Happy Wednesday to you. It's beautiful outside. It's going to be beautiful tonight shortly after 8:30. How are things for you?
Great. Good morning, PA.
Welcome home, and you get that home crowd tonight. That's going to give a natural energy boost, really, to everybody involved wearing the Minnesota Wild colors. They just love the team so much. You got to be excited for that.
Yeah, it certainly is. You know, it was a good, hard-fought 2 games in Dallas, but it's certainly good to get back in our building and, you know, in front of our fans and get the series started off here as well.
Is the game 2 win by the Stars, Coach, one where into the equation you tip your cap and say well done and move on, or looking back, was it more of a winnable game than maybe some think?
You know, I think it was a hard-fought game, I thought, by both teams, and you know, I thought Wally played well, Ottinger played well. You know, we had some good looks and didn't score, and we had some opportunities. And you know, they had a nice net front tip goal. They had the power play goal, and then you know, I think the first one was an unlucky bounce, but you know, they won that one. So now we've got to take the information from that game and refocus and get ready for game 3.
Yeah, with those chances you had with Urhoff and Boldy and some others, when you look back at it, and you know, that's hockey. They Ottinger made really, really good saves, but that's definitely a positive heading into tonight, knowing you killed them in the first game and you had some really, really good chances in the second game, right?
Yeah, and it's not even just about the chances. I think for me, it's just refocusing ourselves on, you know, some things that we need to do, you know, from a structural standpoint, you know, play the game that gives us the best chance to win, and make sure that, you know, we're playing intensely, but we also need to make sure that, you know, we're riding that line where our execution and our attention to detail is strong.
What if you were to craft something close to a perfect game? What structure or what approach for you guys is best suited to help you beat these guys?
Yeah, well, you know, I think I think the way that we play with the puck, you know, when we execute coming out of our end and make smart decisions coming up the ice and get ourselves in the attack, you know, we can be a lot to handle, whether it's off the rush or, you know, in forechecking and offensive zone play. But I also think, you know, when we're a stingy defensive team too, when we're not giving away easy ice, we're good at our net front. We end plays in the defensive zone. You know, that's when it makes our team hard to play against, when we play with that type of detail.
Hey, John, what's the hassle for a coach when somebody of significance like Zuccarello, somebody of significance like Zuki, is part of the morning skate, then has to be a late scratch? Like where does that compromise you?
Well, you know, you're always you have awareness of it, but it's, you know, you have to let a couple players know that, you know, during the skate that, you know, we're going to see how Zuki goes, and you got to talk to the doctors and things after and see how he feels. So you do put some guys on alert, and then you just have to make sure you communicate, you know, with them, whether they're going to be in or Zuki's going to play or whatnot. So it's just coordinating that and make sure you're communicating.
Have you guys made a decision with him or Trainian for tonight?
No, not yet. I haven't seen anybody yet this morning.
And with Zuccarello, John, just how important is he for Kaprizov and Kirill's success?
Well, you know, they do work very well together. You know, but there's times where, you know, I think they have good chemistry. They think the game the same way. I know they really enjoy playing together. So that's what makes them good. But you know, there's times where Zuki's been out or Kirill's been out, or they've been on different lines and things like that. And part of being a team and having a good team is you need guys to be able to play with different players as well.
And when you like put Tarasenko on that line, or you move players around, and maybe with the morning skate you didn't think you'd have to do that. Is it obviously you look at certain types of players who are going to mesh well with others, but when you have a line with Kaprizov and say you lose Zuccarello. The passing component, I would imagine, is very important for the replacement, right?
Yeah, there's a different dynamic, when you lose a player off a line or out of your lineup of what that player brings, and whoever is going to fill in that spot isn't going to necessarily replicate what that player does, but they have to play to their strengths. And then you try to match it up with, I think the style of player that might fit with a line or a deep pair.
John Hynes, coach of the Minnesota Wild, Game 3 of the playoff series against Dallas at Grand Casino Arena tonight, and on KFAN shortly after 8:30. Joe O'Donnell and Tom Reed on the call. Coach, how did Bobby Brink show up in his first playoff game? And personally speaking, I love the forecheck and the pass to Urov after that turnover. Man, that was nice.
Yeah, that was a really nice play. I thought Bobby came in and did a good job for his first game. He's thought he skated well. You can see his speed. I thought competitively he was strong on the puck. And, that's what we need from him. So it was a good start for him. Now,
it can be argued, at least from those on the outside, that Brock Faber has been the best overall player of all of them in the series. Faber has been so aggressive and clearly is making an impact. On the other side of it, and this is like a teaching point for me and some people listening, does he have to be careful, given he's a defenseman, playing this aggressively on offense?
No, not necessarily, because he's not compromising himself or the team defensively. He's making good decisions. He is a play driver with his ability to skate and move the puck and drive offense, but he's really done a nice job of understanding, when's the right time to do it, when's the right time to cut bait, and he's setting himself up to be able to play aggressively and drive some offense, but also he's been very, very good defensively as well.
So stupid hockey question number 2 off this, John, just to continue to learn. When Faber goes to crashing the net the way he has, and it's been quite effective, it's hockey. So say there are weird bounces. Is part of the assignment for the others when they see him do that to know somebody has to get back maybe more quickly than usual?
Yes, exactly. The way the game's played now is your defensemen are so active. Every team has the D-men that are active in the play, whether it's coming out of your own end and they're the weak side defensemen and they join the rush, or they're in the offensive zone and, there's a shot and there's an opportunity to go get a rebound or a sprayed puck on their side of the ice, and, they go down and get the puck, and now they're down low in the offense. It's just part of the system. You're one of the 4, the F3 has to cover for the D, and he's got to stay high until that D-man recovers. So it is part of the system and the structure.
Yep, got it. Excellent answer. Thank you. In what ways does last change help against a team like Dallas?
Well, I think it always helps. It doesn't matter if it's Dallas or anybody else. Usually it's just, it gives you the opportunity to, if the referee's arm goes up and you feel like you wanted to get certain guys against the opponent, you have more opportunity to do it because you have that last change.
And with the series at 1-1, from 1-1, did either what you've seen or what you feel now, is there more pressure on players playing at home or on the road?
I think it's really the same, to be honest, in the playoffs. I think that it's I wouldn't say there's any more pressure on home or on the road. I think it's really just being ready to play the game regardless of what the circumstances are, whether it's home, road, game 1, game 4, game 3, whatever it might be. It's just you have to reload and be ready and be focused on what you need to do. And then obviously when you're home, you do get a little bit of a jolt from your home crowd. When you're on the road, obviously they're all against you. So it brings the team together a little bit more. But, to me, we're excited to get home and play tonight.
John Hynes, coach of the Minnesota Wild, just a few to close here. Wild and Stars tonight in St. Paul. That's going to be fantastic. You guys kept your composure so well game 1. when they tried to start stuff because they were getting blown out. So how does one preach keeping composure and staying out of the box while not limiting the inherent and natural physicality that's required to play the game?
Yeah, I think, it's you need to play with emotion, but not emotional. There's a difference. When you play with emotion, you're urgent and you're competitive and you're in your puck battles and, you're into the game. When you're emotional, it goes a little bit over the line. And to me, it's not just the physicality. We need to make sure that, when there's opportunity to be physical, we take it. But there's also the whole other components of the game is you have to be good at your own net front. You have to be good at their net front. You got to win puck battles. You have to play to your structure. It's not just about physicality. Is we want to be a hard team to play against. Physicality is one component of that. And let's not get carried away with that. Let's make sure that we're focused on playing the game and playing the game that gives us the best chance to win.
So like for the Stars, people who get down the road with Robertson and Johnston and Rantanen and Ottinger and a lot of the familiar names, obviously you guys are super familiar with Blackwell, but a lot of people aren't. So like when he comes on the ice, is it like head on a swivel time, because he's there with purpose and or intent? And I'm not saying he can't score or pass, but you understand what I'm saying? When that guy's out on the ice, you got to have your head on a swivel, right?
Yeah, I don't just think it's him. I mean, it raises, I think, everyone's eyebrows because of the hit on Trenny. But it was a play that happened in the game. It wasn't like he ran around and chased it. It was an opportunity that presented itself, and he took it. Yeah, and that's that's part of the game. But I think in general, in playoffs and playoff series, the game it is a little bit more physical and intensified and competitive, just even in puck battles and things like that I'm talking about, than it is at times during the regular season. So you have to recognize that, and you just have to continue to play.
Yeah, with Blackwell and Myers, I guess, with those two, they come on the ice, man. That's like one of the first things I think is like, who are they out there to hit? All right, just a couple quickies to close here. What are you liking about Wally through the first two? I know he plays tonight, Wallstedt, but overall, with your critical eye, what are you liking about how he's handling this?
He looks really good in the net. He looks confident. He looks big. He's seeing the puck well. I think his rebound control has been very good. He's making the routine saves, and he's also coming up with big stops when we need him. And he's got like that focused competitiveness. He's in the net, he sees the pucks, he's in position, he's competing in traffic and rebounds and tips and things like that. And he looks solid, he looks confident, and he's playing a really focused game.
Lastly, tonight, what's the best overall way to play the Stars? I mean, I'm not saying game one was an aberration because it wasn't. You earned every inch of that victory, and you won like 61% of your puck battles. Well, the puck battle number flipped a little bit in game two, as did some other things. So now we're 1-1. What gives you the optimal chance to beat these guys?
Well, it's one is, I think it always starts there is the controlled competitiveness, right? It's puck battles, stick battles, winning 50-50 pucks, board play, net front play. And then the next part of it is, we want to make sure that we're playing a skating game, a fast game, and we need to play with good structure. And when we do that, that's when we're at our best. Amen.
Tear it up tonight. We'll chat soon. Thank you very much, John.
All right, thanks, P. I see you, man.
Yep, see you, bud. That's John Hynes, coach of the Minnesota Wild, to start the 9 to noon radio show. Wild and Stars on KFAN this evening. It's shortly after 8:30. Joe O, Wild Joe, beloved Budsy, Joe O'Donnell, with the call with Tom Reed. And that's part of the Timber Tech What's on Deck set list, which includes some more forechecking, some football, some front court festivities. Chris Hine covers the Minnesota Timberwolves for the Star Tribune. He'll join us about 25 minutes from now. And the final hour of the radio show is dominated by NFL draft conversation, including yours truly finishing his controversial Monday mock.
Ooh.
Picks 26 to 32.
Any more revisions?
No revisions.
Okay.
But undoubtedly 1, 2, 3, maybe 8 players who absolutely will go in the first round who didn't make the Monday mock. but it's complete. It's done. It is finished. And we will share those picks with you about 11:25. That's Nordo, and I'm Paul Allen. TimberTech, TimberTech.com. Thank you very much for the What's on Deck. Speaking of the NFL Draft, Nordo has compiled 5 for 18. 5 of the most realistic, talked about players who most likely will be drafted. One of them most likely drafted by the Minnesota Vikings tomorrow at pick 18. That's around the corner at FM 100.3 KFAN. Meanwhile, we got some money to give away.
Yes, we do. The Fan and BigDeck.com want to give you a chance to win some bonus bucks with the National Cash Contest. This hour's keyword is family. We consider you beautiful listeners our family. Enter the keyword family at KFAN.com for your chance to win. Keyword is family, KFAN.com.
Alrighty now. By football faith, 9 to noon moves on. Before we get to Chris Hine, covers the Minnesota Timberwolves for the Strib. He was the one that put the microphone in front of Jaden McDaniels and got him to assassinate that Denver defense. First, we got Nordo on the scene for this.
Yeah, the 5 for 18, 9 to noon, almost a little Vikes Bite style.
Vikes Bites.
We were talking before the show, and I just I made the comment to you, it's so excited into this draft because of the unknowns. The unknown because of Briz, and we're talking bombs away, yep. Briz. You know, This is potentially a legacy draft. This is a team that has many needs in several spots. And in the end, we just want this team to be better in 2026.
Yes, sir.
But as the draft has approached, I've gone from excited about the myriad directions the team can go to just kind of, it's the same names kind of keep popping up over and over again. But I did compile what I have seen or what I believe to be the most talked about, the most discussed, the most mocked individuals.
We just want you to be the smartest rube at your cube. So there are 5 people. One of them will become Minnesota Vikings unless there's an aggressive trade. So you can be the smartest rube at your cube.
Indeed. And we're going to get this one out of the way right away. It has been mocked a million times. It's been talked about many times. And on Thursday night, if we hear this guy's name, it'd be fun to see him added to our defense.
Fresno State on 3rd down. There's Brooks in the slot on the hash down to the bottom of your screen. King floats it, looking for Delano, dangerously thrown, and that is picked off by Thieneman. The ruling on the field is an incomplete pass. Look at the right cleat, though, as Thieneman's coming down.
The previous play is under further review.
So the conversation into tomorrow night as things start to unfold, and once you see John Harbaugh and the Giants trade up for Jeremiah Love and all the oohs and ahs subside, the draft's going to continue and some fun names are going to start falling off the board. Dylan Thieneman, Dolphins. Maybe the Cowboys like him. Many teams would love to have Dylan Thieneman, safety from Oregon, on this team. My question for you is, okay, so pick 18, Vikings select Dylan Thieneman. So he enters a safety room that includes Jay Ward, Josh Metellus. Hey, Tavier Thomas is here. Theo Jackson in the mix as well. So Dylan Thieneman joins the Vikings. Is that selection completely independent of whether number 22 returns or decides to retire? I think it is. I think if they love Dylan Thieneman, it doesn't matter what potential HOF does in terms of returning for yet another season. We're going to have to come up with different ways to say goodbye to him, though. This will be like the 3rd year in a row we've been saying goodbye to him at the end of seasons.
I know, right?
Hitman, but
I know, right?
Is that completely independent of a vibe or a feel as to the future of Harrison Smith?
I think it is, and because if Hitman comes back this year, and that still that still has some long shot to it. Then is he going to be the full time 60 play a game guy that we know him as? I would lean more towards no, but it's if you like Thieneman, because he fits the approach that you want to take in a quirky defense that's antithetical to defenses a lot of teams run, then you want him in the stable. So this just like Trey Waynes. What was that? 2015 they drafted him.
Yes.
I mean Trey had to work his way into the starting lineup via special teams, and through that he became a really, really good tackling corner. Thieneman's a different beast, but if you draft him and he doesn't play full time right away, it's not going to be alarming to me. But I think he will.
Another position that has been talked about.
Mike's bites.
That may play into the decision at safety. And I'll pose, I saw this on social media yesterday, and maybe you can comment on it. If they weren't going to go safety, Dylan Thieneman, we love him, but this guy fell to us, and we just absolutely have to take him. Hey, they're teammates, but he plays tight end.
New personnels and formations. It's going to be fun to watch.
Might go 5 deep at running back, go to the outside, and a hit and a shed of Sadiq. Sadiq, touchdown! That's a big boy score for the Ducks.
Hey.
So Jeremiah Love, by many, has been considered the best overall player in the draft. A talker here locally for months now has been, look at this Oregon cat. And it's interesting, best player available. Are we filling holes for need? Well, then you see this interesting contract situation with TJ Hawkinson. And now he is entering the final year of his deal. And we love TJ. We want him to score 10 TDs this next year for the Vikings.
Hey.
And come to fruition, maybe, some of the skills and the production that we were hoping when we made the acquisition for Mr. Hawkinson. But adding Kenyon Sadiq to this, again, another situation where it feels like it's independent of what we're talking about with number 87. You have so much love for Sadiq for the potential now and the potential long term that you just can't pass him up at pick 18. If he was selected, bombs away, Briz.
Bombs away, Briz.
What would you think about Sadiq being the guy? Sadiq is on fire.
We don't need burn. Well, there's not much certain in life and or the NFL draft, but Fernando Mendoza will be the first overall pick. After that, I think, we have a draft savant at 11 o'clock today named John Hynes, footballtakeover.com. He's the sideline analyst for the Houston Texans radio network, former college football scout. My man's really dialed into the game, and he's very smart with the draft. And with that said, he with Arvell Reese, linebacker from Ohio State, he's going to tell us later some things about Arvell Reese that are going to be reminiscent of Micah Parsons.
Ooh.
Okay, and position flexibility. Quite honestly, I hadn't heard that yet.
Man, that Arvell Reese, by the way, emerging from obscurity.
How about that?
In what, like 14 months now?
About 14 months.
Now he's the next Micah?
Next Micah, maybe. So I think that's certain. It's 80% that he's going to go second. After that, it's like Katie bar the door for the old schoolers until you get to the Baltimore Ravens. If Kenyon Sadiq, Oregon tight end, is available, I think the Ravens pick like 14th. I think it's a cinch that he goes there with Isaiah Likely having left. The tight ends are important, A, to Lamar, and B, to the new staff. So, and I don't believe this is a year the Minnesota Vikings are going to be interested in trading up in the draft to get somebody. So I think it's a longer shot Sadiq gets to the Vikings. Now, our 10 o'clock guest, Alec Lewis from The Athletic and theathletic.com, he completed his final 7-round Minnesota Vikings mock.
Ooh.
And he put Kenyon Sadiq at 18. So is he riding discernment? Is he riding information he's getting from agents? Or is he riding some legitimate big-time steam? Because Alec is good at what he does. So when he puts Sadiq in that spot, for most, eyebrows are raised. For me, eyebrow is raised. But just for context, Alec put him at 18. Sadiq would be cool here, but I just don't think it's going to happen.
There's been some conversation, and you can tell me what you think of the depth. You've talked about there's a Stukes cat, I believe,
yep.
Stowers, etc. This tight end class looks like beyond Sadiq, it could be pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, if they found a name maybe in the second round, you might be pretty happy with him. Similarly, PA.
With the Monday mock 26, I put a second, so you got Sadiq, and then I put a second tight end at the end of the first round.
And that would be my question to you is I've just seen some fodder and I'm not denying it. I'm not co-signing on it, but kind of the idea, for instance, with safety.
What happened?
So Dylan Thieneman, pretty darn good player. Caleb Downs expected maybe to go earlier than Thieneman.
And Thieneman's really young. I mean, I think he just turned 22.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay, so we're
he's
getting
like,
raw.
yeah, like when McCarthy came into the league, remember, 21 years of age. Thieneman's a young cat. So, but he's very, very good and smart for that age. But anyway.
Well, the idea would be is, man, they're going to spend a first-round pick on Dylan Thieneman when you can get A.J. Halsey, the LSU cat. You can get Kamari Ramsey in the third round. Have you played any of those mental games in terms of whether it's the depth of the tight end class? Sounds like you have a second guy going mid-20s, excited for the Monday mock to come to completion.
Oh, goody.
Or maybe on the safety side, it's like, hey, day 2, with our 97th pick, we find Bud Clark, safety TCU.
Yep.
Hey, from a value standpoint, if we feel like there was more depth and breadth to the safety class versus the tight end class, we got to get the top 4 or 5 while they're hot before the cliff comes. Maybe that would play into conversations and bombs away Briz tomorrow night.
Well, the general consensus is this is not a first round. General consensus from, I'm playing a game here that I don't like to play, but I'm going to believe in it. It's anonymous scout, anonymous GM.
Yeah.
It's just when people quote sources, for me, it needs to be a certain person quoting that source, somebody on whom I can rely, like Mike Sando from The Athletic. He's just really, really good at doing that. So the consensus is there aren't many blue chippers in the first round of this year's draft. Blue players are what they would call them. So tomorrow, the expectation is there's going to be a lot of trades, and there are going to be teams trying to trade out of the first round because next year's first round is supposed to be hit legit with like 5 or 6 quarterbacks who could be drafted very, very high.
Yeah.
So teams are going to be angling for that. Now, with that said, where does that play into the depth of certain positions? I'm buying the hype on the depth of the tight ends in this draft all the way through rounds 4 and 5.
Ooh.
Simply because we have been told that twice over the years, and it's been right both times. So I don't see why it wouldn't be right this year. That does play into a team. Because they're so far down the road on what they think the teams around them are going to do, where safety's going to go before we pick in the second round. But Thieneman may have some blue chip to him as he continues to grow and as he continues to mentally mature.
If we don't go with a safety, if we don't go with a high-end tight end at number 18, is there another defensive position we could look at, and could it be maybe this guy?
Like their talent in the game.
Yeah.
Melrose intercepted along the near sideline. Jermon McCoy across midfield. Terrible interception thrown by Milroe.
Coverage with Williams. He looks inside immediately. One-hand snag and reels it in. That could not be played better by the cornerback. You see how he located the ball immediately.
I'm just kind of linking two guys together. That's Jermod McCoy, cornerback out of Tennessee. And then how about this guy?
Haynes came from midfield. That goes backwards. It is scooped up on a hop. Nowhere to go, Eric Rivers. And he'll go down. Big negative play after sudden change created by Clemson. Avion Terrell was there to help on the stop. Loss of 12.
You don't see corners run over tight ends too often in pass protection.
The guy sounds like Zolak.
Avion Terrell out of Clemson. So we've spent a lot of time focusing at that safety spot. Needs to improve. I'm going to hit you with a fat guy in the middle momentarily, but the two names that have kind of emerged in terms of talkers, in terms of discussions, in terms of mocks, I've seen a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot. Dylan Thieneman basically has been plug and play for 2 months, it feels like.
Yep.
But I've seen some Jermod McCoy, cornerback Tennessee, who off the ACL, it's like, okay, how's he going to perform? Can't do much at the combine. So nice to meet you. Maybe does an interview or two, etc. Then he blows out the freaking pro day with a 4.37 40. He's got a 38-inch vertical. He has looked tremendous as an athlete. And this is a guy then also top 15-ish draft stock if he's healthy.
Yeah.
So what do teams think about him at this moment, potentially for pick 18? On the other end of it, Avion Terrell, he's got that pedigree. His brother plays at a high level in Atlanta. No picks in 2025, only 3 in his 3 seasons, but he had 4 sacks. That's kind of an interesting aspect of his skill set here. They send him a ton.
Yeah.
And so TFLs, passes defended, a ton of tackles. He's very game and very physical. You heard that highlight. He does, I mean, he ain't going to run through Josh Oliver, but he's going to run through some guys to get to the QB. He is a versatile defender that would look terrific, Avion Terrell would, in Brian Flores' system. Now, we got James Pierre. Welcome to the Covenant. We love you, James Pierre. We have Isaiah Rodgers, final year of his deal. We got Byron Murphy, who just got paid, and then Nudie!
Yeah.
It's Nudie! And Khalif Halassi. So the idea of taking a corner on Thursday night. Now, throwing that out there, I've seen very mixed. We have, you mentioned Trey Waynes in 2015. We couldn't light the fuse with Mike Hughes. We know kind of in the last decade or so what has transpired or what has come of some first-round cornerback draft picks for the Purple. But these are 2 game changers that have been linked to the Purple, and their names, I believe both of them, almost assuredly, one of them would be available at pick 18.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I always come back to, with this version and this brand of the way Brian Flores orchestrates defense, and us and listeners and everybody around the league, if we were to have a common ground on one thing the Minnesota Vikings defense does as well as anybody in the NFL, every single team, and that includes the Seahawks, that would be rush the quarterback and do so from the edge and in deceptive fashion. Now, because of that, if you look back at the plays in the average yards of completion, specifically with air passes, like where the ball's in the air 15 or 20 yards and somebody catches it and there they go. That just doesn't happen a lot against the Minnesota Vikings. So there is a specific corner type the Minnesota Vikings prefer. Byron Murphy Jr., he's a high-end tackler. Isaiah Rodgers is sticky with his coverage. I'm not really sure what to think about Pierre, but with Fabian Moreau, they used Fabian Moreau in some difficult spots last year, and they were able to get around it because of the way they rushed the quarterback. So for them to use the 18th overall pick on a corner, then that means, A, in my estimation, they're not sure what they're going to do with Isaiah Rodgers when his deal's up. And B, he's a specific corner that is going to play, and he's going to play a role that they know they need to fill, kind of like a hybrid safety / corner. I don't see it at 18, but I do think they'll draft one somewhere. I just don't see it at 18.
All right, lastly for you, because I looped 2, 5 at 18 has kind of become 7, and I'm going to hit you with a couple here.
Yes, sir.
First, Ohio State's finest, big guy in the middle.
Handoff goes to Eaton and swallowed up in the backfield. Caden McDonald, and the ball popped out. They didn't stop play, and it's a touchdown for Ohio State.
Hey.
Riley Pettyjohn picked the ball up and scored.
Caden McDonald picking up right where he left off last week. He said 8 tackles. What an impressive day.
So whether it's Avion's teammate in Clemson, Mr. Woods, or it's Caden McDonald, one of these guys, the conversation at 18. And you mentioned a ton of teams trying to trade back, get value. Maybe 2027 is more blue chip-ish in terms of the quality stock. Maybe the Vikings are trying to thread a needle here. Hey, Sadiq fell. We're not going to take him, but if you give us a second-round pick, we'll jump back 8 spots and we'll take a fat guy in the middle.
Yep.
That's potential. And you just look at the depth there with Levi, Drake Rodriguez, Jalen Redmond. We love those guys. We're going to root for them on Sundays. But what about that depth? Taki Taimani. So that's a situation, a position of need. I definitely believe they'll walk away with one in the first 2 days.
Yeah.
But whether it's Caden McDonald, it's a Peter Woods. I mean, I can go 8 for 18 now. I'm thinking about edge. That's my point. I mean, the farther down the road we go, the more I can, like Akeem Messidor from Miami, if he's there at 18 and the Vikings are feeling good about themselves, maybe they add to the pass rush that is such a force in Flores' defense. But fat guys in the middle, your thoughts?
Well, keep this in mind involving Florida inside defensive lineman Caleb Banks. If he's healthy, okay, which he's not. He broke his foot at the combine, should be ready to go by June. But there have been perpetual foot problems. if the Vikings trust their medical staff enough, and they trust said staff at a high end level, and they believe they can get a hold of what's hampering Caleb Banks, they could take him at 18. I think it's a long shot, but if we're going to talk about tackles,
The foot stuff?
with the foot stuff, if you're going to talk about tackles, they, like the guy from Clemson, does one or two things pretty well to almost very good.
Peter Woods, yeah.
Yes. Now, Banks does everything at an incredibly high level if you can keep him healthy, but that's a big risk. Caden McDonald is a 2-down defensive tackle. So he's not one of those guys you play 3 downs like John Randall or Aaron Donald, or those are high-end examples, Quinnen Williams, guys like that. Now, McDonald may be the very best run-stopping interior defensive lineman in the entire NFL draft. So Flores and this defense are they're player-specific with positions where, okay, Caden may not rush it like we thought Allen or Hargrave would last year, but he's going to be better than both of them, and Jalen Redmond, against the run. And on the first 2 downs, ain't nobody going to run up the middle with us with Cashman right behind them. So I don't see him at 18 simply because I just don't think he's a 3-down player. But if they do take him at 18, then that means he's going to play a ton. He'll play defensive end and interior. And they feel that it's going to fortify their run defense to assist the pass rush with the edge guys.
So, hey, that's I gave you 7 for 18.
I like it.
And I think we could, again, expand this to 8 for 18, 9 for 18.
Yeah.
That's where we're at a day in front of the draft, PA.
And the draft is tomorrow. Ballyhoo Draft Show, FM 100.3, KFAN, right here from U.S. Bank Stadium. Paul Charchian, Ben Lieber, Pete Bursich, and yours truly, Vikes selected 18. The Timberwolves begin their game tomorrow night, somewhere between when the Baltimore Ravens and, say, the Buffalo Bills select. And to talk about that team and that topic, Chris Hine from the Star Tribune joins 9 to noon next. You're listening to KFAN. Welcome back. It's 9 to noon. The Minnesota Timberwolves play tomorrow night at Target Center. It's game 3 of that round 1 series against those Denver Nuggets. And joining us now is Chris Hine at Christopher Hine via X. Covers the Timberwolves for the Star Tribune. Also author of the book Ant, a biography of Anthony Edwards. And via his X site at Christopher Hine, you can purchase and or learn more about that book. Chris, Paul Allen, how have you been?
Good, Pierre. How you doing?
Right on, bud. Thanks a lot for the time. What question did you ask of Jaden McDaniels that triggered him to savage all that is Denver Nuggets defense, and do so by name?
I think I just asked about what was the plan of attack on the offensive end of the floor that got you guys going in game 2, and he just said, attack all the bad defenders, and started listing them by name. That was it. He got through, I think, 5 names, and then he said all of them, their whole team, and then I followed up with, they're all bad defenders, question mark. And
Great job.
Said, they're all bad defenders.
Yeah.
In this crazy internet age, you never know if a tweet that you post is going to go viral. I've never been more sure that a video I posted was going to go viral than that one.
As a beat writer, as a reporter, I mean, and with respect, when you ask an innocuous question like that, 9.7 out of 10 times you're not going to get that answer. But when he go at Jokic, Jamal, all the bad defenders, Tim Hardaway, Cam Johnson, Aaron Gordon, their whole team, elite follow. They're all bad defenders. Yeah, they're all. That's so you know better than anybody, man, because you've done this for quite some time and done it quite well. that's a 0.03, something like that happens, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. Usually, in that situation, you're going to hear the athletes say something like, well, we wanted to make their defense work. We wanted to get them moving, make them guard us at the rim, challenge them, things like that, right? Without really saying what they're truly feeling, they'll and not really like coded language, but just kind of hide what they're feeling in other terms, right? Well, yeah. Jaden just came right out with how he truly feels, and I think it's stuff like this is great for the NBA. I think it's good for sports. I think we hear a lot of people complain about how the NBA is too friendly. There's not enough rivalry like there was in the 80s and 90s. Well, here you go. Here's a rivalry right now that's been brewing for the last 3-4 years of two really good teams who have made deep playoff runs. They play good basketball. This is what people want. This is what they need. And I think whether you like what Jaden said, whether you are on the Denver side of it and don't like what he said, I think it's great for the sport. I think it's great for interest. I think it's great for the NBA overall when players say what's really on their mind like this.
Absolutely agree. This is Chris Hine, Star Tribune, StarTribune.com, covers the Minnesota Timberwolves. Chris, in the Wolves locker room after the game, did you sense relief they earned the split out there, or was it supreme cockiness after that road win?
I think a mixture of both. I think after game one, I sensed a lot of frustration with themselves that they let a very gettable game get away from them. And I think in game two, there was more of a sense of, yeah, this is what we need to do. This is more like us. This is more how we win this series. And it felt like I don't know whether they proved it to themselves or just proved it to the world at large that, hey, we're here. We know what it takes to beat these guys and to win this series. And I think that was the feeling I got, was that sort of mentality that they had 2 years ago, that they were just better than that Denver team. And that was kind of the vibe I got the other night, that they regained kind of that energy, that mojo that, hey, we're better than these guys. We know it, and we can go out there and prove it.
What do you think led to Rudy Gobert not being included top 3 in Defensive Player of the Year?
Voter fatigue, number one. Number two, I think you see Asar Thompson was ahead of him on the list from Detroit. So I think some of that is voters trying to reward the Pistons for being the number 1 seed in the East. And so they picked the best defender on the Pistons and put him in the top 3. You see that sometimes, and look at Oklahoma City. Chet gets in ahead of him as well. So I think some of these defensive awards and some of these awards come down to team success, and voters look at, well, who's the best defender on the number 1 team in each conference, or who's the best defender on the number 1 team, on the number 1 defense in each conference, and they vote that way. I think that same logic actually helped Rudy 2 years ago get his 4th Defensive Player of the Year award. He was the best defender on the number 1 defense in the league when the Wolves had the number 1 defense. So even though he had won the award 3 times previously, he got a 4th award, which is, I think, only Ben Wallace or something like that has 4 of those as well. So it actually helped him get a record-tying win in that category, that same logic that got Chet Holmgren and Asar Thompson on the list ahead of him this year.
With the Wolves in the games, specifically game 1, but I mean, you've seen it before during the course of the season. Well, what's happening, Chris, when they start settling for a bunch of threes and jump shots and are not getting into the paint? And it's not like it's an amoeba in there. They're just choosing to settle for a bevy of jump shots. What leads to that?
I think some of it, looking the other night, was a little bit fatigue late in the second quarter. But I think more generally, I think it's guys trying to get themselves going. And I think the other night, and this isn't to always pick on Julius because it's a team-wide problem, but Julius had foul trouble early in the game 1. And then I think he comes back in the third quarter of game 3 and tries to get himself going, to get himself more into the rhythm of the game, right? And that kind of affected the entire thing. And that tends to happen. Guys may not have shots, or there's certain complement of shots during the course of a game, and they try to get themselves going, and then they can throw the whole offense out of whack. He's not the only one that's guilty of that. It just, I think, was the most glaring example in game 3. Jaden tried to do it as well in game 3. I thought, there were moments there where he was attacking and forcing some things that bogged down the offense overall as well. So I think that's kind of just who they've been as a team. And they didn't do as much of that in game 2. They moved the ball. They got those quote-unquote bad defenders moving in space, were able to attack the rim, make the extra pass, play unselfish basketball, and they win the game on the road by 5 points. And if they don't do that, they would have ended up like game 1.
The head coach, Chris Finch, he, for whatever the reason, won't play the youngsters like Shannon Jr. and Clark, and it bugs some fans. What do you think of all that?
Yeah, I am a little surprised we haven't seen a little Terrence Shannon, just given how he closed the season. Scoring 30 points and then I think 25 or something like that against Houston, I thought would have at least maybe earned throw him out there for 3-4 minutes, see if he's got a little something, especially against a team like Denver that doesn't have much rim protection. The one thing he can do is get downhill and get to the rim and attack pretty ferociously. I'm a little surprised we haven't seen him in just even a little bit of a cameo sort of role. But I think ahead of him, you look at the bench and it's like, okay, Bones Highland came in, scored 13 points the other night. You've got Nas that has to play his minutes. You got Ayo DeSumo who has to play his minutes. Kyle Anderson has always been a trusted Finch go-to. Mike Conley, also a trusted Finch go-to. So right now in this series on the road, Finch has leaned on those veterans over the young guys. I wonder if that changes a little bit. Maybe as you get to home, role players, young players tend to play better at home in the playoffs, just traditionally speaking. So maybe as the series shifts to Minnesota, maybe that's more of a moment to try a Terrence Shannon, because the home crowd gets behind him. He's charging up the floor. You can kind of picture it, right? Like the atmosphere, the crowd rises. Terrence Shannon's on a fast break, things like that. And maybe it gets his confidence going at home more than it would on the road.
Time for 2 more with Chris Hine at Christopher Hine via X. Covers the Timberwolves for the Star Tribune. Also author of the book Ant, biography of Anthony Edwards. Learn more about that at Christopher Hine via the tweet machine. With Anthony Edwards, how much of an issue is this knee, and where have you noticed it is impacting his game?
I think you can definitely see it on the defensive end of the floor. I think there are times where you've noticed that Denver has gotten, at times in this series, just wide open threes. They've sometimes hit them, they sometimes missed them. And what I notice in real time is that might be Ant's guy that he has to close out to, and he's not exactly closing out in those situations. I don't know if that's in the game plan for some of these guys in those situations, but I think you can see he's trying to manage this thing in game, and I would watch him on the defensive end of the floor. He still takes his moments to guard Jamal Murray and really play good defense or lockdown defense as much as he can in certain instances, but throughout the course of the game, I do think you see him trying to manage it a little bit on the defensive end of the floor. I wondered coming into this series, was he going to be, playoff Anthony Edwards that we've seen? 80% of Anthony Edwards might not be what you saw 2 years ago or 3 years ago, or even at times last season. I'm still wondering if that's really in there. He had 30 points the other night. He gutted it out, but he wasn't happy with his performance. He was 10 for 25 from the field. So I still wonder if we have one of those kind of classic Ant 40-point playoff games in him to get by Denver. I think I'm more convinced after game 2 that performance is in there than I was after game 1, which he didn't really look like himself at all. So I came away more encouraged, but I'm still concerned about the overall health and endurance of the knee as the playoffs move on.
All right, lastly, and any idea why the Denver Nuggets just flat ran out of gas the final 4 minutes of game 2, specifically Joker and Jamal Murray?
Yeah, I think it was the Wolves again. When the Wolves move the ball and make these guys guard in action, it has an effect on them throughout the course of the game. That's one big reason why the Wolves can't be settling on the offensive end of the floor, is that it's going to tire out the 2 best players on Denver. So it's an added bonus of, I think on the other end of the floor, it pays off too, because you're not going to get Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic in the fourth quarter at the peak of their powers like you did in game 1 when you let them off the hook with the way you played offense. So I think it's all tied together. The way you move the ball affects Denver's spirit and their energy on the other end of the floor. And I think that it's so paramount for the Wolves to stay disciplined on that end of the floor throughout the course of the series. That was our biggest question, I think, in the Wolves media contingent, was can this team do what they set out to do, which they haven't always done this season, to actually put into action the things that they preached to us when we interviewed them. Game 1, they didn't do that. Game 2, they did. Now, can they keep it going throughout the course of the series?
Well, that was excellent. Thank you very much. Enjoy the game tomorrow night, and thank you for joining 9 to noon. Have a good day.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Paul.
Yep. See you about Chris Hine with the Star Tribune. So we've gone from John Hynes to NFL draft chat to Minnesota Timberwolves chat. We've gone from forechecking to football to a front court feast, and it's back to the folly that is football around the corner. Our next guest believes the Minnesota Vikings core is at a crossroads with holes in several areas, a dearth of mid-tier talent, overly reliant on UDFAs/coaching. All drafts fuel success in the NFL, but this one, with 9 picks for Minnesota, cannot be overstated in its importance. Find out what that means and who wrote it when we return.